guys, it's Lauren with Discover Double Bass. I have a lot of different methods I use when I'm practicing to really nail those pieces that I'm working on. And I've shared a method with you before called the rhythms exercise, but today I wanted to share another one with you called up 10, down 5. I incorporate a lot of slow practice into my routine. Every single day I'm doing slow practice on something fast, tricky, you name it, I'm doing slow practice. And this up 10, down 5 method is sort of a variation on the slow practice method that I use. So before I show you the up 10, down 5 method, I'm going to show you what I do with my slow practice. So for all of these examples, I'm going to be playing just a tiny snippet of the Gliere Tarantella. And the first step to doing slow practice is deciding what tempo you want to start at. And generally, I aim for about half of whatever the goal tempo is. So for the Gliere Tarantella, the goal tempo for me is about 90, 95, so half tempo would be around 45. But this piece is a little bit tricky, so I'm going to give myself a little bit more leeway and start at 40. And what I do is I start with whatever tempo I've decided on, and I play it 1 or 2 or 3 times in a row just to make sure that I've got everything. And essentially when you're deciding this tempo, you might have to adjust it a little bit to make it a little bit slower, maybe even faster. You essentially just want to find a tempo where you can comfortably play everything and focus on all of the techniques like your left hand, your bow, etc. So let me show you what I do with my slow practice. I'm going to play this little snippet for you at 40, and I'm going to have the 8th note division on as well, so it's going to sound faster, but the big beats are on 40. Okay, so I play that once or twice or 3 times, just using my discretion, and then after that, I'll bump up the tempo. And because I'm at such a low tempo, 40, and I am basically using this with the 8th note division, I'm just going to bump up my tempo up to 45. So I'm going to bump it up by 5 every single time. And now I'm going to refer to these different tempo levels as baseline tempo levels, and that's going to come in handy later when I start to explain the up 10, down 5 method. So after 45, I'll bump it up to after 40, I'll bump it up to 45 and then play it again. So what I do is every single day I start at this low tempo, say 40, and then go to 45, 50, 55, 60, all the way up to my goal tempo. Now, because I'm starting so low, I'm starting lower than half tempo, then I might not be able to get all the way up to the goal tempo, and that's okay. The next day I might be able to start at, say, 45, and then the day after that I might be able to start at 50, which will allow me to sort of push myself to get up to that goal tempo. And like I said, I do this every day. When you're practicing slowly, it just really helps to ingrain those minute motions and focus on things like intonation and your bow weight. And then as you get faster, you can think less about them, but they're still on your mind because you were just thinking about them, and it's easier to make that transition up to the full tempo, right? So now, with up 10, down 5, I'm still using those baseline tempo levels, right? So 40, 45, 50. But instead of just going straight up to the next level, I'll do 40, play it 3 times, jump up to 50, play it once, and then move back down to 45 and play it 3 times, and then repeat the whole thing. And what that does is it just sort of gives me a little extra jolt that I need in the speed. So let me show you. I'm going to start at 40 again, and then I'm going to play it, I'll play it twice, just so you don't have to listen to me play it 3 times, and then bump it up to 50, play it once, and then come back down to 45. So now I'm going to bump it up to 50. noticeable difference in the two tempos, right? So now I'm going to lower it down to 45, and that's going to be my next baseline tempo. And I'm going to play it 3 times if I'm practicing, but today I'll just play it for you once. So when I do this, that extra jolt in the, when I go up by 10 rather than just 5, really helps to just kind of get my fingers moving. And then when I come back down 5 to that next baseline tempo, it kind of feels like I'm relaxing a little bit. So now let me do this again, and I'm going to bump the tempo up to 55 and then settle down into 50. So if you can see, when I get up to 55, that's a little bit tricky for me, so I'll really have to push my fingers to go faster. And then when I go back down to 50, it'll be a little bit of a relaxation, even though I'm still overall increasing the speed. So if you could kind of see, when I came back down to 50 for that baseline tempo level, it was a little bit easier for me to manage that new tempo. And when I had that little jolt up to 55, I had a second where I sort of had to mentally push myself a little bit faster. I don't know if that came across on camera, but for me it was like, oh gosh, I have to move a lot quicker. And then coming back down feels like you're sort of settling in, right? So you have got that little jolt, and then you can come and settle back in to still a faster tempo, but slower than that jolt, if that makes sense. And having that little jolt just helps to sort of give yourself a little bit of a push, a little bit more momentum. That slow practice method that I showed you at the beginning of the lesson is really helpful, and I do it every single day, but sometimes it's just not enough. I need something a little bit extra because I might be hitting a plateau. And that's where this up 10, down 5 method is really helpful. Now, up 10 and down 5 isn't the only way that you can do this. That's just sort of a suggestion. If you're going up by 5 for the baseline tempo, then I think that's a pretty good goal. But you might find that going up 15 and down 10 is a lot more helpful. So let's see what that would look like. I'm going to start at 40 again, and I'm going to bump it up to 55 and then go back to 45. So now I'm going to go up to 55. And then settle back down into 45. So that's a more extreme sort of version of that same exercise, and it helps a ton. And where I really noticed it was where I had that jump from thumb to thumb. It just felt a lot more comfortable when I did it at 45 rather than when I was even originally doing it at 40. But if you're doing this, and say you're doing your slow practice every day and you're going up by 10, generally, my sort of guideline for this is that whatever the difference is between those two baseline tempos, so 40 to 50, if that's 10, then I'll double it to find that sort of jolt tempo. So if I'm going 40 to 50, to do the jolt, I'll do 40 to 60 and then back down. But really, you can do this any way that you like. It's just helpful to have that sort of jolt to push you forward and help move you a little bit quicker, right? And also, one final thing before I play a little bit more of this exercise for you, you don't have to do this every single day. Slow practice, I would absolutely recommend doing every day. But this up 10, down 5 method really helps when, like I said earlier, you just kind of fall into a plateau or you just need something different. So this is a method that I would use once or twice a week, maybe, and that'll really help to give you that extra jolt that you need. So let me continue on with this exercise just so you can kind of watch and see how I practice. I'm going to start at 50, I'm going to play it 3 times, go up to 60, and then back down to 55. So I hope this lesson helped. If you have any questions, please leave a comment in the section below and I'll answer you as soon as I can. If you enjoyed this lesson and you'd like to learn more from me, please check out one of my many courses available on discoverdouble bass.com, including one all on thumb position technique. Thanks for watching. See you next time.